Well, welcome back to the Ropes Family Podcast. We are on episode 66. And we're going to be continuing talking about the Psalm 23. So we've covered the first 4 verses. I'll read the whole thing. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. And this is what we're going to be talking about today. Verse 5 and 6 is, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So, Courtney, what's kind of sticks out to you in this passage? I know you've got some AI stuff over there, but personally, what kind of sticks out to you in this?
I will say that you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Mm-hmm. And this is something I read, but it said, God isn't going to take, your enemies away from you. Mm. They're still going to be enemies, but he's there through the threats, through, whoever you consider your enemies. God's still with you.
Yeah.
And so I thought that was a really big deal, because I always kind of thought it was, more like I have this table, enemies, I'm doing so good over here. But it's not like that. It's I will be here for you. I will comfort you, but you still have all of that out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not, shepherds, they still protect, right? They protect, they put you, but they don't.
I mean, they could remove the enemies, but
shepherds protect you from the enemies, but
right.
in the you put you in the presence of an enemy, but God is still with you. Mm-hmm. I think that, and you could look at enemies like sin or tragedies in the world, we still have a seat at the table in the presence of God in those, in those moments. God is still with us. He's not going to abandon us just because we are going through the tough times, the tragedies, the whatever. We are still, he's here with us, and then you anoint my head with oil, right? He's caring for us. We are in Ephesians it says we're carefully crafted, or we are his workmanship. We are, when he anoints our head with oil, you anoint my head with oil, it's we are prized. He's excited that he has us. We're his workmanship. He carefully crafted us in a way that he wanted us to be,
Well, and my cup overflows. I saw a TikTok the other day that was talking about even if you do not feel like you have everything you want, did you wake up today?
Yeah.
Were you clean? Were you, I mean, your cup is overflowing, even if you are not, exorbitantly, it's a hard word to say, rich or whatever. God provides. Your cup is overflowing from what God can give you. Your own, just your faith and your trust in God is, if you have that, you have more than a lot of people.
I think this verse kind of refocuses our brain, right? Even in the verse before, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you still prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. My cup overflows. We are change our mindset on and not focus. We still see the bad things, but we still can recognize the blessings. We can still recognize that our cup overflows, even in those hard times, even in the good times too. We can recognize that our cup overflows, and
it's easier to see when everything's going good.
Yeah,
but when y'all have had quite the 3 months, 4 months. Yeah. And you get, I don't know how y'all are feeling, but I would get kind of bogged down and be everything is going wrong, kind of. But like you're saying, we have to still remember that our cup is still overflowing.
Yeah, I think that, and I'll kind of give some context to that. So, the Blairs or Allison and I, we've lost 4 people in our lives, they've died. 4 people have died in our lives, and over the last since June 28th, since the end of June. And so anyway, I got to do the funeral for my grandpa, which is kind of where I learned a lot about Psalm 23. That's kind of where it started this. And then Allison lost her aunt right after that. And then Allison's sister passed away 2 weeks ago. And then my grandma passed away a week ago. And so like we have just kind of, it's been blow after blow. Mm-hmm. But in some of those moments, Allison and I had to have conversations like it's hard to see the good right now, mm-hmm. But we have to trust that surely goodness and mercy shall follow us, and our cup is going to be overflowing. Mm-hmm. We look for the blessings in the hard times, mm-hmm. and sometimes it's hard to see that in tragedies. Sometimes it's hard to see that when Allison said, "I can't do any more sad." Mm-hmm. The other day, she's like, "I just can't," And I understand that. It's hard. It's hard to be sad, mm-hmm. But sometimes you look at it's maybe a perspective switch, like we talked about. You prepare a table for me in the presence of my enemies. You still can find God in all of these moments. God is near to the brokenhearted, and that's what at my sister-in-law's funeral I preached. Psalm 34. You're near to the brokenhearted. Mm-hmm. Taste and see that the Lord is good. That's God comforting us in the hardest times of our life and in the best times of our life. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. It's not always good. Hard. It's not always easy to see that our cup is overflowing. Mm-hmm. But imagine it if we didn't have the Lord. How much more would this, or how much we couldn't handle it, without the goodness of the Lord following us in all the days of our life.
Like, what do you lean on?
Yeah.
If you don't have God. Yeah,
and Carla is my mother-in-law, Allison's mom. She said, "I don't know how people do this without a church family." Mm-hmm. And, that's the way that the Lord designed it, is the church to mm-hmm. take care of the people that are hurting. And that's how he works. He works with, and she said, "I don't know how people do this without a church family." Mm-hmm. And it's a hard thing, but God's design isn't to leave us on our own and do this. That's how our cup overflows, is he uses the church to fill our cup. Mm-hmm. When it's empty, when we're pouring out all of our stuff, when we're just kind of at the lowest, mm-hmm. Here comes the Lord with mm-hmm. his people and to bless us.
That's his goodness and love. That's here, all these people, my people, to hold you up and to, mm-hmm. When you can't stand anymore, they can stand behind you and mm-hmm. hold you there.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot of, and in over the last couple months, it's hard to see I think I said earlier, where's the good in this mm-hmm. situation? And
what's the plan here?
Yeah, what is happening? Mm-hmm. Why and we may not see the good right now.
Right.
And there's lots of layers to a lot of this. That hopefully those layers, and you just got to trust the Lord that the Lord will work all these layers out, and then we'll be able to see. Romans 8:28 says, sorry, I'm trying to remember. All things work for the good of those who love him according to his purposes, right? And so we just got to trust that God's got a purpose and a plan and a reason for these mm-hmm. things. And they're not going to always fit in the narrative of our brain. It's not going to always make sense of why these things are happening.
Right.
But we just got to trust that surely goodness and mercy will follow me. Do you got anything with your AI? And so you looked up a lot of these passages on AI. So what does AI say?
Let's see. On my Cup Overflows, it says that the host of the banquet would always provide like an excessive amount of whatever it was, mm-hmm. food, drink, whatever. And it says that this just reassures us that God's generosity never runs out. Mm-hmm. and that his grace is always with us and is being poured out.
Yeah.
So that's just what you're saying. I mean, as we're struggling, God's still there. God's still just pouring, into us his grace, his mercy, his love. And we just have to see it.
Yeah. And sometimes we got to slow down to see it, right?
Oh, yes.
But sometimes when we slow down, that's kind of when all the scary
Everything
creeps in,
hits
right?
you, yeah.
And Allison said, if I'm by myself or if I'm sitting still, like that's when I feel it the most. And
Stuff always hits me when I'm driving by
Yeah.
myself.
yeah.
It doesn't matter if I have music on or not. That's when everything like hits me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see what she's saying.
Yeah, and so I don't remember what you said.
Sorry.
It's all right. But I think all those things kind of hit you when you're by yourself.
Yeah.
But you need to remember that the Lord is with you too. And sometimes it's good to feel those things. You've got to process them. At some point, you can't just. Something that I know that this is very sad. And Carla, if you don't want me to share this, I'm sorry. I'm going to share it. But as my sister-in-law was passing away, Carla would say, "I don't know what I'm going to do." As any of us would say, "What am I going to do?" And we don't have to know what we're going to do. We don't have to know what the next steps are because the Lord does.
Yeah.
You don't have to know. You just have to trust. With whatever ounce of trust you can. Just look at the Lord. Just dig into the Lord and hold on to him. And he's going to guide us through these next awful steps.
Right.
Through these next couple times. God will. We don't have to know. But God still will take us with him. Sorry, I know these are getting heavy, but these are just thoughts and things that I've gathered and of things that I've experienced over the last couple weeks for sure. But I think I wanted to make a big point about surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So when we dwell in the house of the Lord forever, God is always with us, taking care of us. And there's many instances in the Old Testament of God saying, "I'm with you," or "Fear not, I am with you. Do not be dismayed." That's Joshua. Like when God is telling Joshua to go into battle or lead the nation of Israel, do not be dismayed, for I'm with you. I'm your God. I will take care of you. And I think when we realize we're dwelling in the house of the Lord forever, God is orchestrating our steps. God is going to be with us, even if it's all falling apart, and surely goodness looks different, I think, than what we always expect goodness to be. Sometimes goodness doesn't look like what goodness would typically look like. Sometimes goodness is God removing us out of a situation that we were comfortable in, but it wasn't good for us in the long run. Or sometimes goodness looks like healing, but healing through death, or healing through, restoration. Sometimes goodness doesn't look like what we would want goodness to look like. But there's mercy in that goodness, and so sometimes we just need the mercy.
Yeah.
Or all the time we need the mercy and the grace and the things like that.
We've been reading Daniel at home, and Daniel's a good example of dwelling in the house of the Lord, because there's so many times if I was Daniel, I'd have been like, I'm not going to worship. But he said, no, I'm going to do this secretly.
Yeah.
I'm going to pray to God privately. I'm not going to do this out loud.
Yeah.
I'm not going to show myself to the world. And he did.
Yeah.
Because he knew he had that much faith and trust in God. He was dwelling in his house. He knew God had him.
Yeah.
But I'm not always that strong.
Yeah. When Donovan's been preaching,
Yeah, he
this too,
has.
and I think when you think about it and put ourselves in that situation, would we go to our upper room and open the windows and pray loud? Would we do that? Knowing the consequences of our faith, would we do that? Would we trust in the Lord's goodness and mercy?
Yeah.
And Daniel did. he didn't know the outcome. You know,
Right.
the goodness and mercy may have been his execution, but the goodness and mercy was.
But he was so, I can't even think of the word, like intertwined. I don't know. He was just one with God. Like he knew God had him. Even if it was his death, he knew what was to come.
Yeah.
Kind of
Even in
thing.
death. Yeah.
Yeah, even in death.
I think that's, I think that's a big point of Daniel is to look at his faith and say that, that's somebody we can model our faith after, even in the lion's den, even, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, even getting thrown in the fire, their faith was there. Do we have that kind of faith? Even when, and we've seen that with, Charlie Kirk, people are, it's kind of awakened people's faith a little bit. And, the Lord uses those things to do that, which it's hard to see the good in the moment of something like that. But then you can look back and see like the awakening of faith. That's
Waves going out.
Things like that. Like sometimes it's hard to see the good, but you just gotta, you've gotta trust that the Lord is working in all things. You got any other AI stuff on there?
No, I was looking for a verse I read yesterday, but now I can't find it because I don't have my real Bible. That's okay.
So I'll share a little bit. Like yesterday or day before yesterday, See You at the Pole and Fields of Faith. And those are two big events. And this is kind of where I saw God's mercy and goodness. Those are two huge events. Like See You at the Pole, we had 240 donuts and we had 8 left over, right? And so and some of that was kids oh look, there's some donuts.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get donut. But there was a massive crowd of kids praying, and that's I was excited to see that amount of turnout for these kids, for the kids to be bold in their faith, because it takes boldness to be there, and it's different from where I grew up because we're kind of a little bit more, we care about the Lord here. We're in ropes, which is good. Where I grew up, wasn't quite like that. We would gather in our circles for See You at the Pole, and people would play Red Rover. They would come break up the circles and yell the nastiest things, like the craziest things. That I don't want to say that's persecution, but it was kind of like persecution, but we had to make the choice to stand up in our faith, But anyway, it didn't look, there was God's mercy was all over that. God was working through that, which was a good thing. And then Fields of Faith the next day, which is crazy that these two events were on the same day. I mean, I like it because it was just a big day. We started with the Lord and we ended with the Lord. It was just a big thing. And we took the biggest amount of group, or the biggest group we've taken. We needed 2 buses in the church van, and it was packed, which is, I don't know how many kids were in the bus. I think about 100, a little over 100. And that was really cool, to be able to do that. And we, at Fields of Faith, they share testimonies of, athletes will share testimonies, like Najee Kennedy, the softball player. I know I said Najee Harris the other day, but that's a football player.
I told a parent that because he was telling me this as I was talking to her on the phone.
Yeah,
it's okay.
Najee Kennedy, softball player. She shared her testimony. She said, she didn't say that she's the best softball player, but the best softball player in the world right now. She still makes the Lord a priority in her life. And I think that was important for our kids to hear.
Yeah.
That's how your cup gets overflowing. That's how your cup gets full, is you dig into the Lord. And, she had moments of unsure and like being unsure of things and whatever. And she had to trust in the Lord. And, God bless that, and that was one cool story that, Najee Kennedy did. And then there was another person that shared the gospel, and they did, and kids responded and stuff like that. And there was this one moment where after the event was basically over, and so me being a good youth pastor, I was going to go all the way down to the field, and try to find all the ropes kids that are down
He
there.
doesn't mean that. Not try to find. He knew where they were.
Nah, if you've been to Fields of Faith, you don't understand what I'm talking about.
You know.
They said there was 13,000 students there.
Oh my goodness.
So, I'm trying to find them because, some go and some stay. Some go down there either for prayer. We did have a couple kids get saved, which is awesome.
That's
Praise
cool.
the Lord. And they're going to get baptized soon. But anyway, I went down there to find them, and I found a couple of our kids, and there was a group with Rylan Ketcherson. So Rylan Ketcherson was down there, and as I was going, I saw Will Hammond. So Will Hammond is the backup quarterback at Tech. He's the one that played against Utah this last Saturday, the last game or whatever. And then but he played really well, and Will Hammond's been on like ESPN, been on like national radar, being player of the week.
He's the star right
yeah,
now.
The star, like the star at Texas
Yeah.
Tech, like player of the week, freshman of the week, Big 12, like all these accolades he's received over the last few days. And I saw him there on the field, and he's praying with kids, and I saw Rylan, and I'm like, hey, Rylan, do you want to go get a picture with Will Hammond? He said, yeah. And I take him over there, and Rylan asked him, hey, can I take a picture? And Will looks at these kids, and he says, yeah, I'll take a picture with you, but let's pray first. And he takes his time, and he asks for prayer requests from each kid. There's 3 boys, and he prays for them, prays with them for 5-10 minutes. Like, he takes this time seriously. Like, this kid that has all of this stuff going on, D1 athlete, star of the week, all of this stuff. He's here on this field praying with 3 kids from Ropesville, Texas, caring. It's serving the Lord. And I'm a Will Hammond fan now, by the way.
Will Hammond, if you're listening.
Well,
we have a
hey,
new
Will
fan.
Hammond, if you're listening, that'd be awesome. But hey, I was very impressed by that, because and Nigel Kennedy, like both of those both of those athletes, they don't have to be doing what they did. They don't have to be there pouring into the community.
No.
But there they are, and nobody would have second guessed anything if he said, yeah, let's take a quick picture real quick. But he took the time to learn those kids' names and pray for them. And I posted a picture of it on Instagram. I didn't say anything about Will Hammond on Instagram because I didn't want to make it about. But I was very impressed, and
But that's dwelling in the house of the Lord.
that's dwelling in the house. That's God using Will Hammond to pour into the youth kids. And I shook his hand afterward, and he said, "Thanks for bringing him." And I said, "Thank you for praying with him." Not that Will Hammond's prayers are any better than anybody else's.
No, but it's easy for people like that just to be like, oh, take a picture. Yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'm great. Did you see me play?
Yeah.
But that's not what it was about to him. That's
Yeah.
cool.
I thought it was just great that. Thank you for the impact that and Rylan Ketcherson, he's always carrying a football.
Oh,
The
yeah.
impact that could have made on Rylan Ketcherson could be like life changing.
Right.
Like, hey, because who knows? Rylan might be D1 quarterback sometime.
Right.
Or whatever, D1 player, and that just models for those kids that are aspiring to do things like that. To show that your faith is so much more important than where you are athletically or whatever. In whatever situation, your faith in the Lord, you serving the Lord is the most important thing. And God uses people like that to fill people's cup. And I was so encouraged. That was the goodness and mercy of the Lord. I got to see something like that. And but I'll end on that soapbox.
That's
but
cool.
yeah, it was a really cool moment, and it stuck with me, and I hope it stuck with those kids too. But anyway, you got anything else? All right, I'll do we got a family challenge. I'll come up. So, dwell in the house of the Lord is the family challenge.
Do it.
And how you do that, and how you get your cup overflowed, is you dig into His Word and you trust in Him, and you walk with Him in all the aspects of your life. And there's nothing too little that God doesn't care about, and there's nothing too big that God doesn't care about. God is with you in all of the enemies, the presence of all the enemies. God is with you in all of the things in your life, and you just look to Him and trust Him. That's your family challenge. All right, that's all we got this week. Next week, I think we're going to have a special guest. I just heard back from him. I just got a text. So please tune in next week. It'll be a really cool episode. We will talk at y'all later. Peace.